parents, close your eyes for a second and picture this. It's 2 a.m. You're walking past your 14-year-old's bedroom and you see that faint blue glow under the door and your heart sinks because you know that they're not texting friends or finishing homework at this hour. They started the night with innocent TikTok scrolling, funny dances, some memes, maybe some gaming clips, but the algorithm had other plans. And 2 hours later, they're in a rabbit hole of high arousal content that's now escalated into pornography. And the worst part is they don't even realize how they got there. Well, parents, if this sounds familiar or if you suspect that this occurs with your teen, you are not alone in this nightmare. Recent data from Common Sense Media, the 2022 Teens and Pornography report, which is actually still one of the most comprehensive places to find research on these types of behaviors, shows 73% of U.S. teens have consumed online pornography with the average first exposure around age 12 and 15% before age 11. And other large-scale surveys consistently report exposure rates as high as 93% for adolescent boys and 62% for adolescent girls, and often before age 13, and many times accidentally, simply through the social media feeds. The hidden culprit that most parents miss isn't just the internet, so to speak. It's the same sophisticated algorithms on TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube. They're literally rewiring your teen's still developing brain to crave bigger and bigger dopamine hits, priming them for pornography addiction before they ever even consciously chose it. Parents, I'm Matt Bulkley, licensed psychotherapist, specializing in adolescent behavioral addictions, and your host here on the Parent Guide, Helping Your Teen Overcome Pornography Addiction podcast. And today, we are going to pull back the curtain, backed by neuroscience, the latest research from the last 3 years, 24, 25, 26, and some real stories from my clinical practice into exactly how what we call the infinite scroll and unpredictable rewards hijack the teen brain. And more importantly, I'm going to give you some research-based strategies that you can start tonight to protect your teen and to guide them towards real freedom. So if your family is facing this, just know you're not failing as a parent. What we're dealing with here, the tech industry designed these platforms to be addictive. And we've seen that finding recently with some of the lawsuits that have found tech companies liable, especially for developing brains, for the adolescent brain. But understanding the science gives you power. So stick with me because by the end of the episode today, I hope that you have a clear plan. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to catch weekly new episodes with the latest research, tips, strategies, clinical experience, and support in the recovery journey. Remember, we're in this together, so let's dive in. Well, let's start with the science, how the social media algorithm hijacks the teen brain. And we'll start with what's actually happening inside of your teen's brain right now. Social media platforms are not neutral. They're not just neutral tools. They are literally engineered like digital slot machines, the kind you see in Las Vegas. You never know what's coming next. A hilarious video, maybe a heart emoji on a post, or a shocking thumbnail. And that unpredictability triggers massive dopamine releases, the brain's feel-good chemical that motivates us to seek rewards. So this in behavioralism, they call it a variable reward. Dr. Anna Lembke, the Stanford psychiatrist and author of the best-selling book Dopamine Nation, calls smartphones the hypodermic needle of the 21st century for behavioral addictions like social media, scrolling, gaming, and of course, pornography. The infinite scroll feature is pure genius from a business standpoint because there are no natural stopping points. There's no credits that roll at the end. There's no message. You've watched everything. It's just literally endless novelty. And recent research on dopamine and scrolling, which comes from reviews on digital overstimulation from research in 2025, shows that this creates rapid dopamine spikes, reduced ability to delay gratification, and skyrocketing impulsivity. So your teen's brain starts chasing the next hit, and over time, it needs stronger stimulation to feel the same reward. And that's exactly how the pathways open to pornography. Now you layer on the teenage brain, which, as we know, in adolescence is the most neuroplastic and changeable period of brain development. And the limbic system, which is the emotional reward center, is fully online and hypersensitive, but the prefrontal cortex, which good way to describe that is the brake pedal that controls impulses, planning, long-term thinking. The research shows it does not fully mature until the mid-20s. A landmark study in 2018 by Dr. Evelyn Crone and colleagues in Nature explains this imbalance perfectly, which is that teens are wired to be hypersensitive to rewards and social feedback. And social media exploits that gap with surgical precision. So things like the likes, the comments, the new posts light up the exact same reward pathways that pornography will later hijack, but with far more intense visual and sexual stimulation. One 2015 neuroscience review by Dr. Todd Love and colleagues in behavioral sciences, it showed that regular pornography use produces brain changes identical to substance addiction, which involves altered reward circuitry, craving, tolerance, and loss of control. In a brand new study just from 2025 using functional near infrared, which is by Xu and team, confirmed that internet pornography directly impacts cognition, emotional regulation, and prefrontal function in adolescence, which exactly the areas already under pressure from social media. So in summary, in short, the algorithms prime the pump, and then porn becomes the stronger drug that the brain is already craving. So let me make this even more concrete with data and the human story here. So, a 2023 analysis from New York Presbyterian and related fMRI work found that teens who habitually check social media show measurable changes in the brain regions that process social rewards and punishment, which are the same circuits that later drive compulsive pornography use. In a longitudinal study by Achterberg and colleagues in 2022, teens over years with MRI scans and linked heavier social media use to thinner prefrontal cortex development and poor impulse control. And parents, let me just be clear here: these aren't opinions. These are brain scans. This is hard scientific data and findings. Now let's meet some real teens that I've worked with, and of course, names and details changed for privacy reasons. First, let me introduce Jake, age 15, was a straight A student, was an athlete, came from a loving family, and his parents thought that what was occurring with him was just normal teen phone time. But Instagram and Snapchat's the For You pages started slipping in increasingly sexualized thumbnails. And within the space of a few months, Jake had started watching pornography daily, sometimes for 2 to 3 hours a day. And with that, his grades dropped. He became more irritable, started to become more withdrawn from his parents. He couldn't focus without his phone. Well, and when he started treatment, we assessed him. His, essentially he had a flat affect. It was like his dopamine baseline was just flat, which seems to be the symptom of classic overstimulation. The algorithms had primed him. And so using some of the steps that I'll share here soon, his parents set firm but collaborative boundaries. They replaced his scrolling with weight training and exercise and music. And we worked on open conversations between him and his parents. Within about 3 months or so, he reported that his cravings started dropping dramatically. And now, a few years later, he's 18, he's in college. And he tells me that one of the aha moments for him was when his parents helped him to recognize how the algorithm actually worked and the impact that it was having on his brain. And instead of just reverting to the yelling, getting rid of his phone, taking his internet privileges away, said that it was that learning that was one of the turning point pieces of learning for him. Then there's Evan, age 16. He started on TikTok, mostly looking for the dance trends, and the algorithm noticed his lingering on some of the videos and on anything that was remotely flirtatious, and it started to flood his feed. By 14, he was deep into pornography, uh, concluded that he had started using it to numb anxiety. And when his parents discovered it after quite a lengthy period of time of his being quite secretive, his mood crashed, and now the content for him was more kind of relational or appearance focused, but the brain changes were the same. So, as part of his treatment plan, we really focused on building his offline dopamine sources, and he started to get involved with some graphic design interests, learning to fly drones, started hiking, started to do some family game nights with his parents that they would plan. And about a year later, today, he's porn free, has been for several months, and says, "Well, I didn't know that my brain could feel this calm again." And one more quick story here. Parent, 17-year-old, we'll call him Marcus. His situation, heavy Snapchat and YouTube when he was younger, in his early teens, which led to pornography escalation that became so severe that he began to have suicidal thoughts, in part because of the genre of the pornography that he was using. Started to skip school, started to experience serious depression, and his prefrontal cortex was really struggling under the load. And this is where Starguide's wilderness intervention helped to turn everything around for him and his family. It provided a digital detox, a disruption to the addiction process, and the development of new and healthy coping skills, and a relationship reset with his parents. Remember, these are not bad kids. These are really examples of their brains becoming hijacked by the algorithm. And parents, I want you to remember recovery is possible because the adolescent brain is incredibly adaptive and neuroplastic, and the treatment actually works. Well, parents, here are 4 practical steps that you can take starting today, which can actually work for you. So, number 1 is this: set clear boundaries on screen time. And maybe I realize every case will be different, but maybe this means no screen time. Maybe this means that your teen will go for a time without a phone, without access to technology. Maybe it means that they keep a handheld device, but they don't use social media. Maybe it means a non-smartphone. Maybe it means that as a parent that you're doing daily phone checks. Maybe it means that there's a gradual progression towards more digital access and privilege over time as they demonstrate trust based on responsible behaviors being observed. This is where I think working together with a therapist and your teen together, coming up with a clear set of boundaries that everybody feels good about and can agree on, and can be real valuable. But at the minimum, use the built-in controls on iOS, on an Apple phone or an Android, and even for teens that are doing well, that are managing technology and electronics and internet well, I say at the most 1 to maybe 2 hours maximum with social media. Create tech-free zones, especially, and I think this is vital, in bedrooms after 9 o'clock. I think that every family has a rule where all technology gets docked in an open family room, kitchen, hallway at 9 o'clock, so that there is no technology in the bedrooms. And here's the thing: studies show that even modest reductions in screen time can significantly cut compulsive behaviors. So this one, parents, do it together. Do it with your teens so it feels collaborative. It doesn't feel punitive or controlling. You are, as a family, everybody is participating in controlling how much screen time happens, and you're doing it together. So number 2, encourage alternative healthy dopamine sources. So this would be where we are replacing digital rewards with real world wins, things like getting involved in sports or exercise, working out, CrossFit, running, biking. So be music lessons or art clubs, hobbies. This would be daily sunshine, being outside, fresh air, things like staying hydrated, hanging out with friends in person, face to face, rather than online or through messaging or texting. Things like family board games, family dinners, consistent sleep patterns, making sure that we have good nighttime routines, good sleep hygiene, cooking meals together, clean eating. All of these things are alternative, healthy dopamine sources. One study found that teens with strong offline hobbies had the range of 40% lower risk of escalating to pornography. So the goal here is to give their brain natural, sustainable dopamine without the crash. Number 3 is to talk openly without shame. This is the concept of creating a judgment-free zone, some type of dialogue to the effect of, hey, look, I learned how these apps are literally designed like slot machines to keep you hooked. You want to see how this works? And you explain the difference between healthy curiosity and addiction. And these open conversations can slash and reduce the proclivity for secrecy and shame, which tend to be two of the biggest fuels for the addictive process. And in the recovery toolbox program, the parent guide, I give some specific scripts that you can use to have those difficult conversations, those talks that can be awkward or hard. And then finally, use technology wisely. So install filter and monitoring apps with input from your teen, things like Covenant Eyes or Custodio. And as I talked about, some of the built-in browser controls, which gives you the ability to monitor content and build trust as you do this in collaboration with your teen. And as you do have to present it from the concept of this is how we parent in the digital age. It's not spying. It really is just a form of how effective parents parent in the digital age. So parents, with that, the challenge is start with just one of these steps this week. Choose one of these 4 and implement it. And remember, small, consistent changes beat perfect plans every time. So just take one and get started with it. And parents, I want to talk for a little bit about supporting recovery when the addiction has already taken a significant hold. So if your teen is already struggling, I want you to know this: recovery is absolutely possible, but sometimes it does take structured support. And we know that pornography addiction rewires the brain, and so it doesn't reverse overnight. But as we talked about, the neuroplasticity is on your side during the teenage years. The teenage brain can recover. So this is where seeking a therapist trained in adolescent behavioral addictions can be really, really helpful. As we talked about, building healthy routines, exercise, real social connections, sleep hygiene, all of these things. So be patient. Remember, shame and judgment make it worse. Now, 2 resources that I recommend in almost every episode. So number 1 is the Recovery Toolbox for Teens. And this is a trio of workbooks, comprehensive evidence-based program that gives you as a parent and your teen daily tools, guidance, and accountability. It includes the Breaking Free workbook, includes the parent guide, includes the 101 tips for quitting porn. And this trio of workbooks is the curriculum we use in our treatment model here at Therapy Associates in our clinic in St. George, Utah, and also curriculum we use in our Star Guides program. And you can use it as a parent-led intervention with you as the parent taking the lead on that with your teen, or you can use it in conjunction with an outpatient therapist in your area. So you can get the Recovery Toolbox for Teens. It's in the bookstore on the therapyassociates.net website. So go to that website, therapyassociates.net. One of the pages is the bookstore, and as you get into that bookstore, you're looking for the blue Recovery Toolbox for Teens. There is an adult version, which is the brown version. So you want the blue version. And for severe cases, when outpatient isn't enough, when there's been when there's a risk of escalation for self-harm or suicidality or debilitating depression or anxiety or total loss of control. So this is where maybe as a parent that you've tried everything and you just simply no longer have the capacity to have influence in your teen's life. This is where Star Guides Wilderness Therapy comes in. It offers an intensive, clinically sophisticated wilderness intervention that stabilizes crises and rebuilds family trust when nothing else has worked. So this would be, this is a 4-month digital detox. It's an absolute reset on the addictive process and gives you the opportunity as a parent to have a reset on the relationship. So, and you can learn more about Star Guides at the website starguides.net. I spend Mondays and Thursdays in the field doing therapy with the guys out there, and then other days of the week with their parents. So parents, you don't have to navigate this alone. Remember, the teenage brain is so incredibly adaptable, and that's the good news. Recovery is very possible and treatment works. So, and today, making sure that you understand how that social media, that infinite scroll and the algorithms are priming vulnerability to pornography, how understanding that gives you the power to protect your child and to guide them toward freedom. So start with one of these boundaries that we talked about tonight. Have that open conversation this weekend. Parents, reach out for support if you need it. Make sure to subscribe for weekly guidance, research, tips, support, and help on your recovery journey. Thanks for tuning in, parents. I know how valuable your time is. I will see you next week.